The replication crisis. Have you ever heard of it? I'm going to explain it to you right now. This video is all about subject matter explained to you real easy in layman's terms so everybody can understand. Not like those hotheads talking on mainstream media, blah, 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 blah. You don't know what they're saying. Have you ever noticed this in your life? Now, I don't know how old you are, but when I was growing up as a kid, preteen, teenager, in my 20s after, I noticed this, that every few years, there would be like a big headline in the news. This new study shows that we're going to finally cure lung cancer, or this study shows like some new invention came out, some new cure invention came out that looks so promising, we're going to eradicate cancer in 5 years. Then a few years pass, then you see the same type of headline, maybe for leukemia or something, blood cancer. Then a few years later, you see the same kind of headline, possible cure for whatever, bone cancer, I don't know. Lot of cancer, newsflash, solution for cancer, basically. Every few years I saw this, and guess what? It never came true. Those news reports nothing came out of them. And I was wondering, why is that? Why is that? Well, a good explanation might be the replication crisis. The replication crisis, also called the replicability crisis or the reproducibility crisis, is an ongoing crisis in which it has been found that the results of many scientific studies are difficult or impossible to reproduce. Okay, so what does that mean exactly? It means this: most studies are full of So why is replication important? This is why. Let's say there's a bunch of scientists and they want to solve something. There's a problem in the world. Let's stick to medicine right now. There's a lot of problems in the world. Let's stick to medicine. So they say, based on what I know, this, and what I learned about this. That means if we do this experiment, guys, it should equal to this, and this is going to be a good thing, promising thing, maybe a cure or something. So what they do is they do the experiment 1, 2 times, 3 times, all of them together, and then it works out. It apparently works out, and it's like they publish a paper. Hey, we discovered this new thing, whatever. Some writing, some charts, some p-values, blah 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 blah, and then I'm trying to keep it very. Of course, I'm not. I'm trying to keep it very layman's terms so everybody understands. Very, very general. So anyways, and then they do this, thing, and then they publish this paper, and then, depending who they are, it goes into, the best medical journals in the world. The replication crisis reminds me of this meme. Scientists have discovered that people will believe anything when you claim scientists have discovered it. Or here's another good meme that makes me think of the replication crisis. First they tell us, white bread is good for you. And then 5-10 years later they say, sorry, wheat bread is good for you. And then 5-10 years they say, I mean refined wheat will kill you, but the grains are good for you. And then later on, more years pass, grains are actually poison. And then 10 years later, 5-10 years later, actually, white bread is fine. So now let me get further into the replication crisis and what it is and why it exists. Most replication crises are found in medicine and psychology, but they're also found in economics, chemistry, biology, engineering, environmental science, and so on. First, you have to understand, this is not one person, he does an experiment, and then it's like that. No, these are research papers, the best research you can do, and they appear in the most important medical journals in the world. That's what I'm talking about. So in 2006, there was a survey, over 1,500 researchers, and more than half failed to reproduce their own experiments. I'll give you an example. There was a bunch of scientists, I forgot how many, I think it was over 100, and they tried to reproduce 50 cancer research papers to cure cancer, basically. Guess what? When you redo the experiment, 11% were successful. So 89% of all those other research experiments, meaning it's not true what they have in the medical journals. Here's another example. Over 270 scientists tried to reproduce some results from psychology studies. They replicated less than half, meaning replicated. What the study said, the experiment to do, this, equals this. Less than half didn't equal this. So how could this even be? By the way, all this stuff that they discovered about the replication crisis started around 2010. Before that, we just assumed if it wasn't a reputable medical journal, right? We just kind of assumed, like, yeah, most likely, they've kind of figured, 5% maybe we're not right, it's way more than that. Now add this to the picture. Over 1 million scientific papers are published annually. 1 million. More than half are bullshit. False findings may be the majority or even the vast majority of published research claims. Psychology's replication crisis is running out of excuses. The replication crisis has spread through science. Can it be fixed? Yeah, it can be fixed. The replication crisis can be worse than we thought, new analyst reveals. A new replication crisis. Research that is less likely to be true is cited more. Think about the last 2 years. By the way, we're in 2022 now. So one reason why is that the experiments are not done enough by other people around the world. They have to be done dozens and dozens of times, to be honest with you, to prove, to say that this is really legitimate. This is really true, what we're saying here in the papers, and therefore let's move forward and make a medication out of it or whatever. Another reason why the replication crisis exists is because the experiment wasn't done correctly to begin with. So if you do the experiment wrong to begin with, and then it produces A, the answer, let's say, equal to, A, and then someone else follows those, those steps, but he doesn't realize, hey, there's something wrong in this. You can't do it this way, you can't do it this way. That's another reason why the replication crisis exists. They're doing it wrong. They're doing the experiment wrong. I like this one. A rushed experiment. Rushed. There's a need for it. Maybe something's going on in the world. I can't think of what's going on since after 2020. Something's going on in the world, and there's panic, and there's a big demand, people are demanding answers. So you rush that thing out, rushed experiments and rushed papers. That's another reason why the replication crisis exists. Rush that. I did it first. I got it first. So therefore, you get money, you get grant, you get investors to continue your research. And then the guy, is on Science magazine on the front cover. Thank you very much. Ego stuff, all ego stuff. Other reasons are personal gain. Important papers can advance someone's career and secure funding. Another one is, 20% are just outright lies and fraud for whatever reason. Probably to get ahead. I don't know. As if they'd never be caught, as if they'd never get caught. I don't know. I'll give you an example. In 2013, a researcher spiked rabbit blood with human blood to give false evidence that his HIV vaccine was working. Oh, wonderful. Now here's the bitch about it. There is no funding to redo the experiments. You know? To redo the experiments, make sure, let's make sure this study is correct. Like, who's going to spend money to not create something new, right? Like a new study or a new invention, new medication. No. These are studies that are already published in the most prestigious journals, medical journals. You have to do those over. And not once. You got to do it over dozens of times. Where's the funding going to come for that? No one gives funding for that, or hardly anybody gives funding for that. That's another reason why it exists. And I say experiments have to be done dozens of times, dozens and dozens, by different people around the world. Then we could know what's true and what's bullshit. Remember, the replication crisis exists on all fields of science, right? I'm just sticking to medicine to make it easier to mix it up, right? So in the medicine thing, I know why. There's another reason for replication crisis. Now, I didn't read this anywhere. This is my opinion, is that every human's different. You're gonna make something, all right? You're gonna make a medicine. It's going to work in this guy. It's going to kill that guy. That's the way medicine is. Everybody is different. In the future, it's going to be custom-made, tailor-made medication for your DNA. We're at least 100 years away from that, maybe even more. Also, you ever look at the side effects sometimes of some medication? Extra saliva buildup, and then it's comma, and then the next one is dry mouth. How can that be? How can you have extra saliva buildup and dry mouth, right? Or sometimes it says sedation, right? Sedating effect, calming, sleepy effect, right? And then comma, that's one of the side effects. And the other side effect is anxiety, How could that, if you're calm, you're not gonna have anxiety. Okay, the reason why you see stuff like that contradicts, it's like complete opposite, right? You're looking at the side effects. You may have seen that. It's like, how can they say this and this? Right? It's because of this. In this person, the side effects are that. In this person, the side effects are that. Everybody's different. And if I'm not a doctor, but if you're laughing at me because look, this guy, he thinks he knows shit. He's not even a doctor and he's saying stuff, you can believe what you want. I don't care. But what I say makes a lot of sense. And there are doctors out there nodding right now, agreeing with me. And here's another one that you're not going to hear. Even less doctors will agree with me on this one. The other one, they might agree. Everybody's different. Yeah, they probably might agree on that. But this one, what I'm going to say now is most doctors probably disagree with me. But I'm going to say it anyways because I believe that this is the case. Another reason why the replication crisis happens is consciousness. Now, what the hell am I talking about, right? Well, there's experiments that are going on in the world. One of them is this, consciousness experiments. Remember I told you I have a video, go check it out right here. It looks like this and it's called this, consciousness and something. Anyways, in there I'm going to say quickly, I prove, because there's tons of evidence of this out there if you look for it. Princeton University is a major player. They do stuff like this. There's satellites around the Earth, orbiting around the Earth. There are random generators around the planet, specifically placed on purpose for what I'm going to say. And there are atomic clocks around the world. Also, what they did is they looked at random number generator. They look at that. So all the random number generator does is ones and zeros. It's like when you flip a coin, it's 50-50, right? So it's either 1 or 0. So it's random. It's like the computer flipping a coin. You don't know what it's going to be. Is it going to be 1 or 0? You don't know. 1 or 0, it's mixed up. And then if you do, let's say, 24 hours worth, right, of ones and zeros, just randomly, okay, coin flipping, you'll notice that it's about 50-50. About half the time, 1 comes out, and about half the time zeros come out. Gets your baseline. That's like statistics of ones and zeros randomly coming out. It's about 50-50. Same thing with atomic clocks. Atomic clocks have something that you can check. I forgot what it is. And also the satellites, a bunch of satellites measuring the magnetic field of the planet. There's also a randomness to it. There's a baseline, let's call it normal, the atomic clock normal, and the random number generators. There's a normal. And what happens is when big events happen, this is all my video. When big events happen, like let's say, I'll give you an example, the World Trade Center, the planes going in, 9/11. What happened is all those things, the random number generator, the atomic clock, the satellites, all of them, they started not doing baseline 50-50. They either went this way or that. They started doing things unexplainable, like billions and trillions to one. And it only happens, you could time it, when there's big events in the planet. So the one in Princeton is called the consciousness, global consciousness or something like that. Anyways, check it out if you're interested. It's really awesome. Now, let's get back to what I was saying before. There are scientists now, young scientists around the world that are dabbling with consciousness, trying to learn more information. How does this consciousness affect things, right? And from everything I know that consciousness affects experiments. I'll give you an example. There's this person, he was doing experiments like, let's get the human mind. How can we get the human mind out of an experiment? To not influence it. So they came out with this idea of you have a computer, same thing, does random numbers, ones and zeros, and you got a baseline, of course, 50%. And then there's another computer over here connected to that computer. Well, it's not connected to the computer, it's connected to the power supply of the other computer, and it decides if that computer, the power gets pulled. In other words, the one that's doing the ones and zeros gets shut off or not. So this computer is doing random numbers to decide if this computer gets shut off, no more power. This is the computer that does all the ones and zeros. It's doing that. So you see the baseline. This computer over here is doing that too, but it's to decide, because if it's let's say a certain number, let's say it's if it lands on 1 million, shut this other computer off. So in other words, what the setup is, you don't know when this computer is going to get shut off, because you don't know when this computer is going to have a number that decides to shut this computer off. I hope hope you guys can follow me. So this computer over here is randomly deciding when to shut off this computer. So we don't know. Nobody knows when this computer is going to be shut off. But this computer, all along, it's doing ones and zeros baseline. The scientist who was doing the experiment, he was so excited about this experiment. He was, psychically excited about this experiment. And he said, he was so excited. And he said, oh my God, if like this computer can tell, if just like, by the way, I have to add this to it. It's in my video too, when those planes hit 9/11, those things around the world, the random number generator, atomic clock, and the satellites, all of them started to go off of baseline, off of the average, before it hit the tower, like 2-3 hours before the planes hit the tower. So this guy was saying, imagine now something changes, before the computer gets shut down, which no one would know, but imagine over here, it starts doing the same thing like that. So they do the test, and guess what? It does. This computer, about 3 seconds before it got shut down, because it's noted, it's timed, this computer starts going haywire before 3 seconds before it gets shut down. So they do the test again, same thing, test again. And the guy's, the scientist, he's like, oh my God, wow, he's so excited. He tells his friend all about it, He's excited too. He does it. wow, it does it. It's like somehow this computer, we don't know, knows it's going to get shut down 3 seconds before it gets shut down. So that's like mind-blowing, that, right? So they said, okay, we need to create a more elaborate or better experiment to, because we're going to like shock the world with this, right? So they create this other experiment, doesn't work. They do it over and over and over and over again, doesn't work. There's nothing. When this computer shuts this computer, this computer is not predicting anything. All the numbers always stay. Nothing special happens. So they say, okay, well, let's go back to the original experiment. So they go back to the original experiment, nothing happens. How could that be? The first time he did that experiment many, many times. Same computer, same hardware, same software, everything's the same, identical. Now it doesn't work anymore. And I think it's because he's not as excited. I think his mind made it happen in the beginning. Like hoped something like that would happen, and it happened. And when the excitement wore off, okay, he says that, by the way. Maybe I'll put a link in the description below if you want to go see the whole thing. It's pretty freaking amazing. So I think also that is why replication crisis exists. I think that is why sometimes scientists can do experiments over and over themselves, and it's like, wow, it works. And then later on, when they do experiment, like a year later, 2 years later, when they're not excited anymore about it, they do it, and it's like, what the hell? It's not showing up. It's not doing what it did like 2 years ago. So I think that is another reason for the replication crisis, because consciousness is involved in everything, whether you like it or not. It's involved in everything. There is nothing that consciousness doesn't touch. So how do we solve the replication crisis? Easy. One, which they're already saying this, it's not just me. They're saying, invest money in replicating studies that already exist, that are already in journals. Invest money to do them, not another time or 2 times, dozens of times. And then you're going to weed out all the crap and keep the good stuff. That's what we need. And the other thing, that's my opinion. No, I don't think, I didn't read about this, or I didn't see anybody say it, is design the experiment to have the minimal impact of your consciousness on it, so that consciousness has the least influence on the experiment. We're like babies in that category. So, it's easier said than done, meaning how the hell would you do it, right? Well, we have to use our imagination. That's what you have imagination. So I believe setting up the and maybe not all, you probably can't do a lot of experiments that way, but the ones you can should be set up to have the minimal amount of conscious influence. And now this is the part where you like the video. Come on, like it, share it, and subscribe to this channel, because I'm always coming out with some cool stuff. Well, I think it's cool stuff, important stuff, interesting stuff, and stuff that can help humanity. And remember, centralized power is cancer to society. Love, light, and healing.